Hey folks, I used to be that guy. I used to believe that having the biggest, baddest handgun chambered in the most powerful round I could find meant I was ready for anything. But one night, a few years back, completely shattered that illusion. I signed up for a high-intensity, low-light defensive shooting class. This thing was built to replicate real stress, sirens wailing, strobe lights popping, instructors screaming in your ear. And what was in my hand? A full-size steel-frame pistol chambered in .45 automatic Colt pistol. You know what the old-timers call the one-shot stop. The buzzer went off. My first shot completely missed the steel. The second one sailed right over the berm. The recoil was just uncontrollable. My front sight was bouncing all over the place. I couldn't get back on target. And right then, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Survival isn't about raw, brute force. It's about what you can actually hit. When your heart is pounding out of your chest, your grip is slick with sweat, and every split second matters. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what really makes self-defense ammunition work. We're going to talk about why some of those lighter, faster rounds, the ones that get dismissed as underpowered, are the exact rounds chosen by professionals in federal law enforcement and elite military units. And most important, I'm going to show you how modern ammo design is completely flipping that old-school bigger is better mindset right on its head. If you've ever been torn between a 9mm and a .45 automatic Colt pistol, or if you just want to understand what's actually going to keep you and your family safe, stick with me. I'm no commando. I'm no secret agent. I'm just a regular American who takes personal safety deadly seriously. And the day I finally tested a box of modern, fluted ammunition, my entire perspective on stopping power changed forever. Let's kick this off with the most heated debate in the entire gun community. Does caliber size really make a difference? One. The biggest myth in the gun world. Let's start by tearing the Band-Aid off. Bullet size is not the deal breaker you think it is. I still remember my first trip to a real gun shop down in Texas. I told the guy behind the counter I needed a good home defense gun. He didn't even blink. He pointed right to a big, heavy .45 automatic Colt pistol. "You hit 'em with that," he said. "They're going down." And it sounded good. It sounded convincing. But that kind of thinking, it only tells half the story. And if you buy into it, it can lead you down the wrong path for years. See, after I got serious about training and testing, I started running all kinds of ammo through ballistic gel, hollow points, bonded rounds, fluted designs, you name it. And what I found out, honestly, it shocked me. Caliber is not what determines whether you walk away from a fight. Sure, it's easy to look at a big, heavy bullet and assume it's better. But those huge rounds like a .44 Magnum or even that .45 automatic Colt pistol, they can be brutal to manage, especially when you're under real duress and your body is dumping adrenaline. I was talking to a retired detective friend of mine, and he told me about a night that changed his mind forever. "Back then," he said, "I swore by my .45. But I watched another officer dump 3 rounds into a suspect during a break-in. Only one of them made contact, and even then it didn't stop the guy right away. That was a hard-earned lesson. The bottom line is this: the best bullet is not the largest bullet. It's the one you can control when chaos hits. Under adrenaline, what matters is not the thump. It's the shot you can place exactly where it counts. That's why the FBI spent years and millions of dollars developing new standards for duty ammo. It's not about bullet weight or how loud it is anymore. It's about how deep that projectile can go. Which brings up the next big question. Why is a 12-inch minimum the new gospel in the gun world? To answer that, we've got to go back to a firefight that changed everything. 2. The shootout that rewrote the rules. Now let's talk about the event that tore up the old playbook, the Miami firefight of 1986. Every now and then, a moment happens that completely changes everything we thought we knew. And for self-defense ammo, that moment was April 11th, 1986. Early that morning, 8 FBI agents were tailing 2 extremely dangerous bank robbers, Platt and Maddox. What they didn't know was that within minutes they'd be trapped in one of the most violent and deadly gunfights in the Bureau's history. The entire exchange lasted under 5 minutes. more than 140 shots were exchanged. 2 agents were killed, several others were gravely injured. But the part that still haunts firearms experts? The suspects Platt and Maddox were hit repeatedly and kept on fighting. One round in particular, a 9mm hit Platt in the arm, passed through and lodged near his heart. It was a textbook shot, but it didn't get deep enough to shut him down. Platt still had enough fight left in him to keep shooting. He took 2 agents with him before he was finally neutralized. That one moment forced the FBI to start asking a completely different set of questions. No longer was it, how big is the round? It was, can this bullet reach the vitals even through clothing, even through bone, or even through auto glass? That day revealed a brutal truth. Defensive encounters are messy. They are unpredictable. And you may only get one shot that counts. So the bullet doesn't have to be massive, it just needs to reach the right place fast. This is why the Bureau established a clear rule. Any round meant for duty use must penetrate between 12 and 18 inches in calibrated gel that simulates a human torso. And that puts fans of so-called knockdown power on notice. If your bullet can't reach the heart, does all that muzzle flash even mean anything? But penetration by itself doesn't tell the full story. To truly stop a threat, the bullet must also expand and do internal damage where it counts. That's what brings us to the real formula for stopping power: depth plus expansion. And next, we'll dig into why those 12 to 18 inches became the gold standard and why so many rounds still fall short of it. 3. The sweet spot: 12 to 18 inches. Now let's break down why that 12 to 18-inch window is the most trusted measure of real-world effectiveness in defensive shooting. Ever wondered why the minimum accepted depth is 12 inches? It is not random. It wasn't just picked out of thin air. This range was determined after analyzing thousands of ballistic events, countless lab tests, and far too many tragic incidents where ammunition failed to perform. Think about this. You're being charged by an attacker. He's wearing a thick jacket, maybe he's holding a crowbar. You pull the trigger. Your bullet first has to punch through multiple layers of clothing. Then it might have to go through an arm that's raised in defense. And then it still has to have enough energy to reach vital organs like the heart or the spine. If that round stops at 10 inches, the threat is still on his feet. That's why the experts set the bar where they did. Defensive loads must travel at least 12 inches, but no more than 18 through ballistic gel that simulates soft tissue to be trusted. Any less, and the round may fail to stop the threat. Any more, and you risk that bullet exiting the target and hitting an unintended target beyond the threat. I remember watching a side-by-side test. 2 nearly identical pistols firing 2 completely different types of ammunition. One round, a cheap budget option, it hit the gel and struggled to reach 10 inches after just piercing 1 layer of synthetic denim. It failed. The other, a premium, bonded hollow point, cruised through to 15 inches with picture-perfect expansion. The takeaway was obvious. Both bullets struck the target, but only one could be counted on to do real damage. Lesson learned. Just landing a hit is not good enough. Your ammo has to go the distance and do its job once it gets there. That 12 to 18-inch sweet spot, it's not just a number on a spec sheet. It's what separates wishful thinking from a true defensive solution. And when the chips are down, that difference might be what saves your life or someone else's. 4. Full metal jacket or hollow point. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when I strolled past a basic handgun course with a buddy of mine. He's a seasoned firearms trainer. As we walked by, a man in his 50s stood proudly in the group holding his pistol and grinning. "I picked up some high-end rounds for home defense," he declared. "Full metal jacket." My friend just sighed and muttered, "That stuff's for the range, not for your living room." Here's the core of the issue. Full metal jacket rounds, or ball ammo, are constructed with a solid lead core completely encased in a hard metal shell. They are built to penetrate cleanly. They often travel straight through a target without much deformation. Great for training, terrible when lives are on the line. Hollow points, on the other hand, are engineered with an open cavity at the tip. Upon impact with soft tissue, they expand like an umbrella. This increases the surface area, slows the bullet down inside the target, and delivers all of its energy without over-penetration. Now picture this. You're forced to shoot to protect yourself. Your full metal jacket round hits the attacker, but it doesn't stop. It exits the target and finds a second victim, a stranger, or worse, your own loved one behind a thin drywall. Sound dramatic? It has already happened. In one real-world case from 2009, a Georgia shop owner fired a full metal jacket round during a robbery. The bullet pierced the threat and continued right through a drywall partition, striking a bystander and inflicting serious injuries. Had he been using hollow points, the bullet might have stayed inside the attacker, and that innocent woman could have walked away unharmed. Key takeaway? You're not just responsible for where your bullet lands. You are accountable for everything that happens after the trigger breaks. Full metal jacket isn't unsafe. It's just not purpose-built for self-defense. Hollow points are. They are specifically designed to end the threat quickly, while reducing the risk of unintended harm. However, not all hollow points are created equal. Budget options can fail to expand reliably, and thick clothing can sometimes clog the cavity, turning a high-tech round into little more than a metal plug. That's why picking the right ammunition isn't just about choosing hollow point. It's about selecting one that's been battle-tested under real-world conditions. And that brings us to what changed the game. 5. 9mm Takeover. When I first got serious about shooting, I was convinced that real stopping power came from big, heavy rounds. I started off with a .45 automatic Colt pistol, because that's what all the old-school experts on the gun forums swore by. But after a few hundred rounds of real training, my wrists started to feel it. My follow-up shots were slow. My confidence began to dip. That's when I noticed something. The professionals, the guys who stake their lives on their sidearms, military personnel, law enforcement agents, even the FBI were all switching to 9mm. So why the shift? Why move away from calibers like the .40 Smith & Wesson or the .45 automatic Colt pistol? It wasn't about cutting costs. It wasn't about going soft. It was about performance. With today's ammunition technology, a premium 9mm delivers terminal effects equal to or better than larger calibers, while being far more controllable. Let's talk advantages. Reduced kickback. This means it's easier to keep your rounds on target under pressure. Higher round count. More shots in the magazine means greater staying power in the fight. Affordable practice. Less expensive cartridges encourage more range time, and training is everything. Modern bullet design rounds like the Spear Gold Dot and the Federal HST give the 9mm the ability to penetrate deeply and expand reliably, just like the big boys. Real-world evidence backs this up. In 2014, after exhaustive testing, the FBI restructured its official ballistics standard. The 9mm emerged not only as a viable alternative, but as the top performer in simulated shootouts, particularly in scenarios involving rapid, high-stress engagements. Many officers who once clung to the .40 Smith & Wesson found that they shot faster and more accurately with the 9mm. Bottom line, you're not proving anything by picking a bigger round. The point of defensive shooting is precision under pressure. Can you hit your mark again and again when it matters most? 9mm isn't a compromise. It's the optimal tool for the job, backed by data experience and modern engineering. And the innovation doesn't stop there. Let's look at the next evolution in defensive ammo, something that throws conventional wisdom right out the window. 6. The next generation. Fluted bullets. I'll never forget the first time I laid eyes on a fluted projectile. It didn't look like any self-defense round I had ever seen. No hollow cavity, no typical full metal jacket profile. Just a solid piece of copper precisely milled with deep, spiral grooves wrapping around its nose. I remember asking, "This is supposed to stop a threat?" Turns out it absolutely is. Unlike conventional hollow points that rely on mechanical expansion to increase their effectiveness, fluted bullets work completely differently. These rounds use high-speed fluid dynamics. The moment the bullet hits soft tissue, those spiral channels act like little turbines. They direct fluid violently outward, shredding a wide, deep temporary cavity without the bullet ever changing shape. Here's what sets them apart. No expansion needed. This means there is zero risk of failure due to clogged cavities. Shape retention. It maintains its full structure even after hitting barriers like heavy clothing. Wound volume. It can produce wound channels more devastating than some hollow points. A standout example comes from Lehigh defense makers of the Extreme Defense line. In testing through ballistic gel with 4 layers of denim, their fluted bullets penetrated between 13 and 15 inches, maintained perfect structural integrity, and produced explosive wound cavities. And get this. Even in smaller calibers like the .32 automatic Colt pistol, which is often scoffed at for lacking punch, these same fluted rounds reached ideal depth and caused massive internal trauma. So what does that mean for the everyday carrier? It means those compact, low-recoil pistols that were once viewed as a last resort can now become legitimate defensive platforms if paired with the right ammunition. Moral of the story: don't choose your rounds based on what your uncle or some internet forum told you back in 2005. Let science testing and real-world data guide your choices. But no matter how advanced your ammunition is, it's all useless without accurate shot placement. In the next section, we'll explore why hitting the right spot, not just the right caliber, is what truly determines whether you survive the fight. See you in Part 7. 7. Shot placement wins. Caliber is secondary. I once heard an old vet say something that didn't make sense to me at first. He said a 22 to the chest beats a 45 to the bicep. I laughed at the time. I thought he was just being sarcastic. But after speaking with cops, seasoned instructors, even emergency room surgeons, I learned he wasn't kidding. You could carry the most advanced firearm loaded with cutting-edge hollow points, but if your shot misses a vital organ, it's just loud noise. So what exactly is shot placement? It's the precision to put rounds into areas that stop a threat immediately, like the central nervous system, the heart, the lungs, or the spine. These are the critical zones that shut the body down on impact. It doesn't matter how tough or how determined an attacker is. If you hit one of these spots, they go down. Here's a real-world takeaway. The FBI studied thousands of officer-involved shootings and concluded that there's virtually no major difference in immediate threat stopping between common handgun calibers. 38 Special 9mm 40 Smith & Wesson, or 45 ACP, as long as the shot hits where it needs to. I once saw training footage where an officer hit a suspect 3 times in the shoulder and the arm. The attacker kept advancing. The 4th shot, placed center chest, ended the threat instantly. It wasn't a caliber failure. It was a placement issue. Lesson: it's not just about what you're packing, it's about where your rounds land. When your adrenaline surges, your vision narrows, and your hands are shaking, you'll wish for a gun you can control, ammunition you know well, and the muscle memory to deliver shots that matter. That's why lower recoil rounds like 9mm are so popular, because they allow for quicker, more accurate follow-ups when the pressure's on. But there's another piece to this puzzle, something most people don't consider until it's far too late. Can you handle your gun when panic sets in? 8. Can you manage the recoil when it counts? I'll never forget the first time I fired a .357 Magnum. Before that, I had only used 9mm, so I was excited, until I pulled the trigger. The recoil snapped my grip, the report echoed like a cannon, and I blinked from the muzzle flash. I just stood there, stunned. My instructor just nodded and asked, "Could you have fired a second shot if that had been a real threat?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. That day I realized something critical. The best ammo isn't the most powerful. It's the one you can control, especially when things go sideways. Under real stress, your body does not cooperate. Your pulse skyrockets. Your hands get clammy. You will get tunnel vision, you might even forget to breathe. That perfect stance from the range? Gone. Now you're just trying to survive. I had a student once, a single mother. She carried a .40 Smith & Wesson because someone told her it was serious self-defense firepower. But in a simulated pressure scenario with flashing lights, yelling, and loud distractions, she missed all her first shots. The recoil was too much and she panicked. She later swapped it for a compact 9mm. Next drill? 3 hits in 3 seconds. Lesson: don't let recoil beat you. If you can't grip the gun tight, keep your sights aligned and send a follow-up round in under 2 seconds. It doesn't matter how big your bullet is. Choosing something manageable doesn't make you soft. It makes you deadly accurate under fire. Once you've found ammo that matches your control and your comfort, there's one more thing to think about: how your ammo choice could play out in court. 9. Courtroom Consequences. At a local seminar on self-defense law, the instructor, a retired cop turned defense attorney, stopped mid-lesson and looked around the room. "Everyone loves to talk ballistics," he said, "but your ammo choice might be what a prosecutor uses to hang you." He was right. Even if your defensive shooting is entirely justified, the type of ammunition you used can be turned against you in a courtroom, especially if the incident results in collateral damage, or if the opposing lawyer wants to portray you as trigger-happy. Some types to be wary of. Over-penetrating rounds like Full Metal Jacket can punch through your target and hit someone else. Gimmick ammo with aggressive names. Think Zombie Slayer, RIP, or anything advertised with violent language can look really bad to a jury. Unconventional or exotic rounds not commonly carried by law enforcement might invite unwanted scrutiny. Case in point, a man in Arizona defended himself using specialty fragmenting rounds marketed as organ shredders. While the self-defense claim held up, the trial dragged on because the prosecutor used the ammo's branding to question the shooter's motives. Lesson: you're not just preparing to survive the threat. You're preparing to survive everything that follows. Stick to reputable duty-proven loads, like Federal HST Speer Gold Dot or Winchester Ranger T. These rounds perform well, they are trusted by law enforcement, and they carry far less courtroom baggage. Quick tips: know your local laws and how they apply to your use of force decisions. Avoid tactical marketing fluff, choose proven professional-grade ammo, and keep a record of why you chose your carry ammo. It might help your legal team later. Now, even with the most reliable ammo in your gun, there's still one factor that matters more than anything else: your training. 10. Training beats gear. Always at a range class. One weekend I watched a group run through defensive drills. One guy stood out, a confident man in his 50s with a sleek 9mm and top-tier defensive rounds. "This is the best ammo you can carry," he said, holding up a box of Speer Gold Dot. Everyone nodded. Then the shooting started. Out of 3 rounds, he hit the target once. The instructor gave a slight smile and said, "Even the best ammo can't shoot itself." That line stuck with me. Lesson: high-end gear without real practice creates a dangerous illusion of preparedness. It's not about what you buy, it's about what you can do. Shooting under pressure cannot be learned in a classroom. It comes from live reps under simulated stress. Reloads, malfunctions, and drawing from concealment are all skills that need regular, consistent training. Real-world defense situations move fast. If you don't train, you won't keep up. A police officer once told me, "My ammo was solid, but 10 years of weekly drills is what let me stop that robbery when the guy was 7 feet away." Final takeaway: the round that wins the fight isn't the loudest or the fastest. It's the one you can deliver with precision when your life depends on it. If this video gave you something to think about, let us know in the comments. What defensive ammo do you trust and why? Hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what's next. We've got more content coming on defensive drills, real-world scenarios, and how to stay sharp when it matters most. Disclaimer: this video is for educational purposes only. It does not endorse or instruct any illegal firearm use, sales, or modifications.